My name is Julia. I'm 34. And 2 minutes ago, my brother emptied my bank account. The text came through just before the notification. You owe me this for dealing with Mom all these years. I stared at my phone, heart slamming against my ribs like it was trying to escape. The balance blinked back at me in cold, unfeeling digits. $0. Not $185 left. Not even a cent. Zero. That money wasn't just savings. It was Rebecca's leg surgery fund. The only thing standing between my 10-year-old daughter and a lifetime of chronic pain, nerve damage, and wheelchairs she never asked for. And the transaction log didn't lie. It showed the transfer originated from Travis's iPhone. My own brother didn't just steal from me. He stole from a child who can barely walk without wincing, all because he felt entitled to a payday. In that moment, I didn't feel like the patient, forgiving sister anymore. I felt like the forensic auditor I am by trade, someone who tracks financial criminals for a living, and I'd just found my next target. Before I tell you how my daughter became the most dangerous person in this family, drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from right now. I need to see who's on our side. For 10 years, the story in our family was simple. Julia left, Travis stayed. I was the selfish one because I moved 3 hours away to build a career in forensic auditing. Travis was the saint because he lived rent-free in our mother's basement, claiming he was her caretaker. But that was the trap. The kind of slow, suffocating cruelty that masquerades as loyalty. They called it family duty. But what it really was emotional blackmail dressed up in Sunday dinner smiles. Success wasn't celebrated in our house. It was punished. And the only way to earn back your place at the table was to pay for the people you supposedly abandoned. I didn't add Travis to my account because I was naive. I added him because I was exhausted from apologizing for existing. I remember the day clearly. It was 4 years ago, right after the car accident that crushed my legs. I was lying in a hospital bed, doped up on painkillers, terrified I'd lose my job. Travis stood at the foot of the bed, not asking if I was in pain, not holding my hand, but complaining that his truck had broken down and he couldn't get Mom to her appointments. "I can't carry everything alone, Julia," he said, eyes flicking over my cast like it was an inconvenience. "You have the fancy job. I have the burden." So I gave him access. Just for emergencies, I told myself. Just for gas, groceries, Mom's prescriptions. It felt like buying peace. I thought if I paid enough, they'd finally stop calling me the selfish sister. What I didn't know then was that you can't buy peace from people who profit from your war. Over the years, emergencies became a very loose term. An emergency was a $300 bar tab on a Friday night. An emergency was a new gaming console because he was stressed. An emergency was the lease on a brand new pickup truck that cost more than my first house. I saw every charge. I watched them roll in like monthly insults, and I let them slide. I drove a 10-year-old sedan with bald tires and a dashboard that rattled like it was coughing up its soul, while my brother cruised around in a $60,000 lifted truck paid for by my overtime shifts. I lived in a drafty rental with plumbing that groaned like a ghost, all so I could save every spare dollar for Rebecca's surgery. Meanwhile, I co-signed the deposit on Travis's luxury condo because he couldn't pass a credit check. I told myself I was being a good sister. I told myself I was helping him get on his feet. But staring at that zero balance on my phone, the fog finally lifted. I wasn't helping him. I was paying rent for my place in the family, a monthly subscription fee to be tolerated. Travis didn't steal that money because he was desperate. He stole it because he believed it was already his. In his mind, my success was compensation for his stagnation. He thought I was an endless resource, a tap that would never run dry. But he forgot one critical detail. When you drain the account, you also cancel the subscription. He didn't just take the money, he took the only reason I had left to play nice. I closed the banking app and opened my work laptop. The sad, guilty sister died the moment I saw that balance. The woman who replaced her didn't care about keeping the peace. She only cared about the audit. I pulled up the raw transaction metadata. For years, I'd used these tools to track cartel money launderers and corporate embezzlers hiding behind offshore LLCs. I never imagined I'd be using them to hunt my own blood. The screen filled with lines of code, timestamps, routing numbers. But to me, it was a map. The money hadn't gone straight into Travis's checking account. That would have been amateur hour. Instead, it had been routed through a series of digital hops designed to mimic legitimate business purchases. But Travis wasn't a criminal mastermind. He was just a guy who watched too many crime dramas on Netflix. I traced the receiving routing number. It belonged to a shell company called Obsidian Ventures LLC. The name pinged a memory. I opened my federal watch list files and ran a search. Instant match. Obsidian Ventures was flagged in a Treasury database as a known front for an online gambling ring operating out of Eastern Europe. My stomach dropped. This wasn't just family theft. This wasn't Travis buying another truck or paying off a credit card. He'd wired $185,000 directly into a federal crime syndicate. Wire fraud, money laundering, conspiracy. He'd crossed the line from civil dispute to felony. I leaned back in my chair, the blue glow of the screen painting shadows across the kitchen. Travis thought he was clever. He probably believed routing the money through a business account would hide it. Instead, he'd just handed me the nuclear codes. He wasn't just a thief anymore, he was a liability to the United States government. I kept digging. I needed to know where he was right now. I pulled the GPS data from his linked Apple ID. The location history painted a damning picture. Yesterday afternoon, when he texted me a sob story about spending 3 hours in the cardiologist's waiting room with Mom, his phone was pinging off a cell tower next to the Lucky 7 casino on the state border. He hadn't been with Mom. He'd been gambling away the last of his own cash, getting desperate enough to finally pull the trigger on mine. Then I heard a soft noise behind me. I turned. Rebecca was standing in the doorway, clutching her stuffed rabbit, eyes wide and impossibly clear in the dim light. She looked small in her oversized pajamas, but there was a steel in her gaze that no 10-year-old should ever have to carry. "Did he take it?" she asked, voice quiet but steady. "Did Uncle Travis take my leg money?" I wanted to lie. I wanted to tell her it was a glitch, a mistake, something I could fix with a phone call. But I was done lying to protect the people who hurt us. "Yes," I said. "He took it all." She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just nodded, a dark understanding settling over her face like a mask. "Then we take him down," she said. It wasn't a question, it was an order. And looking at her, I realized she was right. We weren't victims anymore. We were hunters. And the hunt was just beginning. I had the where and the how. Now I needed proof of intent. In federal court, the difference between "my sister said I could borrow it" and "I conspired to commit wire fraud" is often just a text message. And Travis was sloppy. Years ago, when I bought him his first iPhone so he could apply for jobs, I added him to my family sharing plan. He never left it. He probably forgot it existed. I opened the iCloud dashboard and clicked into message archives. He'd deleted the thread with Nicole, his girlfriend, but hadn't cleared the recently deleted folder. I hit restore. The conversation flooded the screen, timestamped 2 hours ago. Travis. "It's done. She finally paid up." Nicole. "All of it?" Travis. "Every cent, 185 grand. We're going to Cabo, baby, first class." I stared at the word she. That was what I was to him. Not a sister. Not a lifeline. Just a mark. A stupid, gullible mark who'd finally paid out. He wasn't stealing to save Mom's house or pay off a loan shark. He was stealing to party. To live on my dime while I ate rice and beans so Rebecca could one day walk without pain. I took a screenshot. That was Exhibit A. Then I cross-referenced his location history. Yesterday afternoon, when he claimed to be at the hospital, his GPS placed him at the Lucky 7 casino for 4 straight hours. The timestamp on his text asking for gas. Money matched a withdrawal at the casino ATM. He'd gambled his last $20, walked out to his truck, and decided to rob me. It wasn't desperation, it was entitlement. A cold rage settled in my chest, displacing the panic. I wasn't shaking anymore. I was organizing. I created a new folder on my desktop labeled Evidence and dragged in the bank logs, the shell company profile, the chat logs, and the GPS map. Then I heard the floorboards creak. Rebecca stood there again, holding her tablet, face pale in the screen's light. She walked over, eyes scanning the red text on my banking tab. "Is it gone?" she asked. I wanted to send her back to bed, to shield her from this ugliness. But she was 10 going on 30. She knew what that money meant. She knew it was why we wore hand-me-downs and why our car's check engine light had been on since forever. "Yes," I said. "He took the surgery money." She looked at the screen, then at the photo of Travis I'd pulled up. No tears, no why, just fierce, terrifying clarity. "Then we take him down." She pulled a chair up beside me. "I can help," she said. "I know where he hides his passwords." I looked at my daughter, and for the first time that night, I smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of a woman who just realized she wasn't fighting alone. "Hey," I said. "Let's get to work." I didn't call the police. Local cops take reports. They write things down and tell you to call your bank in the morning. They don't have the power to stop a wire transfer already halfway to an offshore shell company. But the United States Treasury does. I opened my secure work portal. In my line of work, we have direct access to the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. I filed a Suspicious Activity Report, SAR, with the transaction ID, flagged the recipient as a known money laundering entity, and hit submit. It was the financial equivalent of calling in an airstrike on my own life. Within minutes, the system reacted. Automated defenses kicked in. The transfer wasn't just frozen. It triggered a cascade lock on every account touching it. Travis's personal checking, his savings, even the Obsidian Ventures shell account. All of it turned to ice. He wasn't going to Cabo, he wasn't going anywhere. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. Caller ID, Travis. I let it ring twice, 3 times, letting his panic marinate. When I finally answered, I didn't say hello. I just listened. "What did you do?" he screamed, voice so loud I pulled the phone away. "The ATM says federal freeze. You called the feds on me." "I don't know what you're talking about," I said, pitching my voice high, trembling like the old Julia. "I woke up and the money was gone. I think I was hacked." "I'm scared, Travis. That was Rebecca's surgery money. If it's frozen, I can't get it back. Please, come over. We can sign whatever papers they need." There was a pause. I could hear him breathing hard, mind racing. He needed that money to pay off the people behind Obsidian. If he didn't deliver, he was dead. And right now, he thought I was just a confused, terrified woman who'd accidentally tripped an alarm. "I'm coming," he growled. "And you better not be playing games, Julia, or I swear to God, I'll burn that house down with you inside it." The line went dead. I lowered the phone. My hand was steady. My face was dry. I looked at Rebecca, watching me from the kitchen table. "Is he coming?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "He's coming." I walked to the front door, unlocked it, and turned off the porch light. I wanted him to think I was hiding. I wanted him to think he was walking into a house of victims. He didn't know he was walking into a federal honeypot. The SAR wasn't just a freeze. It was a beacon. By the time Travis pulled into my driveway, he wouldn't just be facing an angry sister. he'd be facing the full weight of the US government. They didn't knock. They attacked the door. Travis's fist hammered against the wood like gunfire, his voice screeching through the night. "Open up, Julia, I know you're in there. Give me my money." He wasn't just yelling at me, he was performing for the neighbors, setting the narrative. I was the thief. He was the wronged party. Same tactic he'd used since we were kids. Scream loud enough, and people will assume you're the victim just to get some quiet. I looked at Rebecca. She stood in the hallway, clutching her tablet like a shield. She gave a single nod. I took a breath, disengaged the deadbolt, and swung the door open. Travis stood on the porch, face flushed and sweating despite the cold. Nicole hovered behind him, eyes wide with fear, not anger. "Finally!" he snapped, shoving past me. "You think this is funny? Freezing my accounts?" "I didn't freeze them," I said calmly, the same voice I use when testifying in court. He spun on me, fingers shaking. "The ATM said federal freeze. You called the bank. Fix it." He truly believed he could bully his way out, like always. I held out the file folder I'd been holding. "I can't call them," I said, "because I didn't do it." I handed him the SAR document, Treasury seal stamped at the top. The United States Treasury froze it. When you moved $185,000 into a shell account tied to a known gambling syndicate, you triggered a federal wire fraud alert. That money wasn't sent, it was tagged. The moment you transferred it, you didn't send funds. You sent a beacon to the FBI. Nicole whispered, "Bait money?" "Evidence," I said. Travis staggered back. "You set me up. You ratted on your own family." "You're not family," I said. "You're a liability." He tried one last plea. "I did it for Mom. For Rebecca." But I stepped closer. "You're not a hero. You're a thief who stole from a disabled child." Blue and red lights flooded the room. Outside, black SUVs blocked the driveway. Federal agents poured onto the porch. "Hands where we can see them!" Travis turned to me, stripped of arrogance, pleading like a child. "Julia, please." "I can't help you," I said. "You're unauthorized." I watched the cuffs close around his wrists. I watched Nicole cut a deal before the engines even started. I watched my brother dragged out screaming my name. When the street finally went quiet, I locked the door. Rebecca stood in the hallway. "Is he gone?" "Yes," I said. "Good," she breathed. "Now we can buy the surgery." He got 15 years. The money came back. Rebecca runs now. No pain, no limp. People ask if I feel guilty. I miss the brother I imagined. Not the man who stole from my child. Silence isn't lonely. It's peaceful. And sometimes, protecting your future means amputating your past. If there's one thing I want you to take from this, it's this. Love should never cost you your dignity, your safety, or your future. Family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by respect, accountability, and the willingness to show up without taking everything you have. If someone uses duty to justify draining your bank account, your energy, or your spirit, that's not loyalty. That's exploitation. Protect your boundaries like your life depends on it, because sometimes it does. And if you're watching this while still paying rent to be tolerated in your own family, know this. You don't owe anyone your silence. Walk away. Freeze the accounts. File the report. Choose yourself. Your peace is worth more than their approval.